All right, icons. Today is March 14th, 2019, and I have got an incredible treat for each and every one of you. You know, John Murdock and I had to go look it up because I said, John, we've been coaching together for how long it's been? It's been 18 months, 2 years. I looked it up, and in actually, 5 days time, it will mark 1 year that you and I engaged in coaching together. And I got to tell you, the amount of growth that I've witnessed in this individual has been nothing short of remarkable. He is an absolute powerhouse, and you're going to learn about John through this process. Yet, let me just have John explain, what are the 3 things, John, that you want these folks to walk away with when they're done with this webinar today? Go for it.
So first, I got to say I'm honored to be here. Second of all, coaching is kind of a two-way street, right? I got to say, I've been with a lot of coaches over several years, and I really think that you need one for each part of where you're at in business. And so you've been a tremendous help for that. So I definitely got to tip my hat to you for my growth during this journey. And so the 3 things that I really want people to get away from today is knowing how to break down your sales funnel, how to master your database. So that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be having a good culture in your organization. And then the third one is going to be just understanding proven systems to where you can automate your business to where people are actually scheduling appointments on your calendar, and you've automated your recruiting. And so you don't have to be chasing people down. And that's really the things that we've been working together for quite some time.
All right. So for those of you who are just joining us live on Facebook right now, welcome. We got John Murdock. John, tell us where you're from.
Just outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia.
Fantastic. Now, if these guys want to get a hold of you because they're all curious, where can I send my referrals in that part of the country? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Honestly, probably if you guys are watching on Facebook, just by Facebook, drop me a Facebook Messenger. You guys can always find me there. Probably it's going to be the easiest way to do that.
Fantastic. All right, John. So let's dive in real quick. So the first thing is, how do you master the database? How do you master this sales funnel such that you can automate a lot of the sequences associated to nurturing these prospects through the pipeline to move them from what I call the dreaming phase? By the way, thanks for that, Greg Harrelson. The dreaming phase of real estate sales to the actual buying or listing phase. And what Greg taught me was that if we ignore them when they're in the dreaming phase, they'll ignore us when they get to the buying or listing phase. So John, you've mastered this automation around communicating with the pipeline such that when they think real estate, they think John Murdock. How do you do it?
Yeah, good question. It all starts with the conversation. You have to understand where people are at. You have to ask the right questions, and you can't be telling people what they should be thinking. You have to figure out what's their motivation, what's their ideal time frame, what do they think that they need to do, and what do they think are hurdles that they're going to come up against, and how can you be that conduit to help them get there? I mean, it really starts with asking the right question.
Absolutely. So talk to me about the automation sequence, though. What CRM are you leveraging for that?
Yeah, so I've tried and tested a lot of CRMs right now. And what I did is I reached out to a lot of people that are doing hundreds and thousands of units. And basically what we ended up doing is customizing an Infusionsoft database. And so basically whenever I talk to somebody and they say, hey, John, I am 12 months out, I want to sell my home, but I'm waiting for next summer to do that. We put them into our Infusionsoft system, and they receive a sequence of communication, whether it's email, text, voicemail campaigns from us, depending on where they're at in that sequence. And by the time that they get to 1 year down the road, they already know us. They know other case studies of other people that have been in their same shoes. So they've seen the results that we've given to other people that are exactly in the same shoes that they are in. And so it's kind of a no-brainer.
Are you leveraging video as part of that communication?
We are, and we just started doing that. We send a weekly email out, and we leverage KCM, so we use their content. And I create like a 60 to a 90-second video each and every week about what's happening in real estate. And we're also using videos for our testimonials and our case studies.
Okay. Now, gang, I don't think video is an option any longer. As Grant Wise with Real Estate Marketing University says, video is a must now. It is an absolute must. See, there's a psychological phenomenon that occurs when you leverage video. It's called a parasocial relationship. And just like Jennifer Aniston or any actor you can possibly think of, Sylvester Stallone, when you see somebody on screen, whether you know it or not, you're actually forming a relationship with this individual based on your own perceptions and historical data that's available to you in your mind. And you're creating a relationship with this person. And so, John, by leveraging video content, and while I know this is relatively new to your model, what are you seeing as a result?
So I'll tell you something instantaneous. We had interviews yesterday. We had a group interview. We had a couple people there. And I asked them who here that was in that room, who has seen us on social media. And it really just helps solidify them in our minds that, oh my gosh, yeah, these guys are all over the place. They're everywhere. I've got no choice but to join myself with that organization because I know that I'm going to be successful. So that was an immediate kind of feedback that we just got on the video. That's pretty cool.
Powerful stuff. Now, I want to jump forward here just a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about automation around recruiting. Now, gang, I believe that if you truly want to build a business, it's going to require leverage. Now, leverage comes in four distinct categories in my mind. First, it's leverage through models. Second is systems. Next is technology. And then finally, people. And I think one of the reasons that agents do not succeed at building a team is they have not systemized their recruiting process. So John, you took this to a whole new level. Tell us about your system around recruiting talent.
So I've got 5 steps. The first step is that people apply. The second step is we invite everybody that applies that meets our initial criteria. We schedule them to go watch a pre-recorded video that I've already done, outlining the opportunities with us, our mission, vision, values, where we're going, and to see if they're going to be a good fit. At the end of that video, people either say yes or no. The people that say yes, we have a phone call with them to where after that phone call, we get their references. Once we get their references, everything checks out. We call the references, we go deep on that, and then we invite them to a group interview. And if people check out at every single point of the way, it's really natural selection at that point. And when we get down to it, I ended up hiring 2 people yesterday on the spot after a group interview that were looking to join our team. So we have truly scaled it to where we are only putting, I'd say about 3 hours into the whole process.
3 hours per week, per month?
I would say almost per month.
Okay, fantastic. And you're doing weekly group interviews now?
Yep.
Okay,
I did a group interview yesterday for about 45 minutes.
Let's go back to step 1. They apply. How do they apply?
Yep.
How are you advertising for these candidates?
We've got online ads going through Indeed, Wise Hire. I mean, we put a very, very wide net out there.
Good, good. And what are you investing in Indeed, Wise Hire, would you say, per month?
I'd say about $200 to $250.
Okay. And what's the result? How many candidates are you getting to apply per month?
Per month, I'd say about 100 to 150.
Wow.
Per month.
So 100 to 150. Yeah. See, those of you who have reached your natural ceiling of achievement, meaning you can't put another buyer through the pipeline, you can't take another listing because you just can't manufacture another hour in the day, right? And once you've reached that, the only thing that's going to lift the ceiling of your production and profit, gang, now hear me on this, it's leverage, okay? So John has systemized this onboarding process, or I should say this identification of candidates process, to then take them through a series of filters to the point that when he's going to invest his personal time, it's not done one-on-one, at least initially, right? It's done in a group format. You then walk them through an agenda of this group interview process, and then you invite them into the office one person at a time to ask a simple question. Are you in or are you out? Now, if they're in, what's the next step?
I literally have Ellen, who runs my organization, on the back end. If they say, hey, we're in, then I just direct them down the hall to Ellen. She gets them sign the paperwork. She gets that time frame of onboarding basically complete. So by the time that they walk out of there, we've got action steps and actionable items that they're going to take and that we're going to take to get them onboarded.
Fantastic. Okay, so John, obviously you didn't start there. right? Let's rewind the tape a little bit, right? Let's rewind the tape a little bit. John Murdock, brand new to real estate. By the way, how old were you when you got into real estate?
23.
23. Okay. And you've been at it now for what, about 5 years, right?
Yep, this is going to be my 6th year in July.
Fantastic. And by the way, I anticipate seeing you on the 30 under 30 here in the coming weeks, right?
Yeah, we're hoping.
All right, good stuff. So let's rewind. John, you're 23 years old. You get your real estate license. What was your greatest lesson at that phase of your career?
Well, I would say the first thing that I did is I hired a scripts coach. And I truly understood from day one that it's not only what you say, but it's how you communicate. And it's the words that you say. And you talk, I know that you teach a lot of NLP. It really goes down to your tonality, building rapport, connecting with people. I feel like that connection is so missed nowadays in sales. Like people just don't know, understand how to make those connections with people. And so it started with making the connection. How can I make the connection? And I was just busting my butt, calling for sale by owners, expireds, withdrawals. I mean, I would call anybody, didn't matter who you were, where your house was located. I would call you and I'd try to book an appointment. So that's basically where I started off at 23.
Just grinding it out on the phones. Now, you said something that I don't want to slip by. Gang, there's really 3 things that determine your trajectory when you get into this industry. It's first knowing what to say. Second, knowing how to say it. Now, John went out and he hired a scripts coach so that he could check those boxes, right? He knows what to say. He knows how to say it. Then it's really up to you to say it to enough people. So just like John, many of you, well, you're going to have to improve your discipline around just saying it to enough people, even a salesperson without a ton of skill. Well, if they talk to enough people, gang, they're going to do a ton of business, no doubt about it. So let's talk about first year's results. What happened?
Well, it took me 18 months. Well, it took me 6 months to have my first sale, and it was actually a buy-sell, and it wasn't even from the people I was prospecting. It was a good friend of mine that was moving out of the area, right? So it took me 6 months to get a buy-sell, and then in 18 months, I closed about it was just over $2 million in sales. I mean, it was about 7 units here. So in my market, starting out, it was pretty thin over 18 months.
Okay. So second year, what would you say your greatest aha was? Because that's really when you started getting a little more traction, started really figuring out what you needed to do, how you needed to do it so that you could do it with enough people, right? So second year, what was your biggest aha second year?
I'm happy you asked me that because my second year I closed 22 deals. And the biggest thing, the reason why I closed 22 was because it wasn't that I was doing anything different or talking to different people or calling different lists. It was all the people that I had talked to for the first 12 to 18 months. All of those conversations and nurtures and people were coming through to fruition. And so I started closing these deals. And I was like, oh my gosh, the database really is where you want to be. I mean, that was the biggest aha for me in my second year.
Good. So building that database, planting seeds for a future harvest. And so many times people, they get into this pipeline phase of their organizational development, meaning this is your marketing, this is your proactive lead generation, your lead follow-up, your nurturing campaigns are in the pipeline phase of your business. Then they springboard into momentum. Now, momentum, John, I know you're there now. It's a fun place to be, right?
It sure is.
I mean, it's where we're getting signed buyer agency contracts, signed listing contracts. We're doing buy-sell agreements left and right. Now, the challenge, and John, I want to hear your perspective on this, is that a lot of people, once they break through, they've applied that tenacity, that willpower, discipline to break through into momentum. Well, ultimately, what happens to them is they have no leverage. They then fall backward in the model. So they go from momentum back down to pipeline because they've stopped and ignored the pipeline phase of their business. And why? Well, because they're busy. They're busy with the transactional work, the inspection negotiations, the lenders, the title company, all the buyer and seller's emotions come into play, and they end up holding the hand of the prospect and ignoring the pipeline phase. So they fall backward. Let me ask John, did you hit that wall yourself? Did you get into momentum to fall back down to pipeline and wonder, where's my next deal going to come from?
So thankfully, it never got that low, but I was killing myself working 70, 80 hours a week. Ouch. So that's basically where I made up for it, right? I mean, I would work every single night and I'd work almost every single weekend, and I was putting more time on the phone. And I was just practically killing myself, just working way too much.
Gotcha.
That's what I was feeling.
So talk to me about your first key hire. What position was it? Who was it?
It was after my second deal, I hired a transaction coordinator because I realized after my first deal, this is not for me. I'm going to screw this whole thing up. And so that was my first key hire on it. And that was deal number 2.
Okay. And was that outsourced or was that in-house?
Outsourced. And believe it or not, she's still with me today. She's amazing. Her name is Lisa, and she keeps us together. And I'm so grateful for her.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out about that, isn't she in the state of Florida?
She is.
So she's not even in your own state, and yet she's been your transaction coordinator for the last 5 years, coming up on 6.
Yep. We've had a great relationship, and we basically know what each other is thinking right now. I know exactly what she's going to do, but I started that relationship 5 years ago. And so it's been absolutely tremendous.
Love it. Okay. So guys, the lesson I want you to gain from this is get a transaction coordinator as quickly as you possibly can. You can outsource it just like John. There's many companies and people out there that will do your transaction management for you. And it's a per transaction fee that is only due and payable when the deal closes. Okay. So it's a contingent transaction conditional upon you getting some money, and then you pay them. And what is that fee for you, John, if you don't mind outlining that?
Yeah, it's $350 to $450 depending on the price point.
Okay, so $350 to $450, guys. Then the key is to take the time you would have otherwise invested in the transactional work and reallocate that to the 20% effort. Now, the 20%, what I'm referencing, by the way, is Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. So 20% of your activities in real estate sales, gang, it will produce at least 80% of your results. Now, the mistake that most agents make is they give an inordinate amount of time to the 80% work, the stuff that needs to be done, yet it doesn't necessarily move the needle for you or your organization. Those that really get on in this business, like John, well, they figured out how to give an inordinate amount of their time to the 20% effort. Let me outline it real quick because it's the same for every one of you in real estate sales. The first is to practice your skill, knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, right? The second is lead generation. Now, this is outbound lead generation to people that you've never spoken with before. And then third is your lead follow-up. Now, when you do those 3 things consistently every day, well, the other 2 things, they kind of take care of themselves. And that's going on appointments and negotiating contracts. So again, there's a direct correlation from number of conversations to number of appointments. So if you're sitting there saying, I wish I had more appointments, what do you get to do? Yes, that's right. You get to have more conversations, right? And of course, there's a natural byproduct of appointments, which is contracts. And then from contracts to revenue. So if you want more revenue, let's reverse engineer it all the way to the one thing you can control, knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and then say it to enough people. Right, John?
That's absolutely right.
All right. So talk to us about.
If you think about it, for a transaction coordinator, that's about 20 to 25 hours of your time. That if you were to spend that 20 to 25 hours on the phone talking to more people, just think about how much more business you could generate. I mean, it's blowing once you break it down into the hourly rate of how many hours it's going to cost you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you get that, John. So tell us, how have you applied leverage to have more conversations? Because again, if you want more appointments, you have to have more conversations. And yet, John, you've figured this out. How have you increased the number of conversations without increasing your personal time?
I've basically brought on 2 inside sales agents that they're both making about 40 contacts a day. We're adding 5 people to our database a day per inside sales agent. And then I'm going on an additional 5 appointments per inside sales agent per month. And so the results have been tremendous ever since.
Fantastic. And your average commission is what, around 10, 12 grand, right?
So gross, yep.
So when those 10 appointments convert, that's 120,000, gang, in gross commission income per month. Okay, now talk to us about compensation model, because it's a results-driven compensation model. I want to hear about that.
Absolutely. So we give them a very, very small base. We bonus them per listing that we sign, and then we give them 10% of the gross commission at the very end when everything's said and done. So if these guys are booking, if I'm taking one listing a week from them, they're making six figures based on our price point.
Gotta love that. How many of you guys know somebody out there who wants to make six figures a year? Well, this is a model, gang, that has been proven time and time again, not only by John, yet by hundreds of other icon clients that have applied this model to their current business structure. So, gang, it's just about increasing the number of conversations that you get to have. Here's the best part, though. You don't personally have to have those conversations. That, in fact, the lead generation aspects of your business, well, that can be leveraged. It can be delegated to somebody else. That's the good news. The bad news for some of us is that you get to master it first. Just like John went out and got a coach, he got a scripts and dialogues coach, somebody who could help him understand not only how to generate the leads by using mere words, yet how to convert those leads, how to handle objections, knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and then say it to enough people. Fantastic. All right. So of your 5 years in real estate, John, tell me, what has been your biggest learning experience? Because I don't like the word failure or mistake. What's been your biggest learning experience?
My biggest learning experience was finding the right, you can call them admin, director of operations, someone to basically run the back end of my organization. I struggled finding somebody that was a good fit for that role. And I went through quite a bit of people, and the person I have now, Ellen, has been doing an amazing job. I mean, we are on the same wavelength. She knows, she does things before I even have to say them. I mean, it is just, we understand each other so well that things just get done. And we're a whole lot more efficient and effective that way. And she's been helping me with the recruiting. I mean, helped me leverage everything. I mean, it has been an absolute game changer. So to answer your question specifically, it's finding the right people.
100%. Okay, so let's drill down on that a little bit further. See, part of the challenge in outsourcing the transaction work to a transaction coordination firm or individual, here's the challenge in it. They're only going to do your transactional coordination. That's it. So the challenge with most agents here, gang, is that they're so busy focused on where the next deal is going to come from. They're so tied down into lead generation, lead follow-up, that they'll hear a strategy or tactic, something that could be implemented and then deployed within their marketing system. And the issue is they don't have the time nor the energy after working all day of getting your next deal to deploy that. So my advice would be, once you get to, call it 3 transactions per month, to hire that transaction coordinator in-house. And while about 20% of their time is going to be spent on transactional work at that time, the other 80% of the time can be invested in helping you deploy things like a for sale by owner direct mail campaign, to download all old expireds for the last 5 years and put them on a direct mail campaign, and then a lead follow-up and nurturing sequence on the back end so that you're earning the business automatically of people. Or absentee owners. I mean, we can implement and deploy things. And by the way, John, that's our next topic. That's what I want to talk to you about, okay? So you can deploy things like John's going to share with you because you've got the assistance of somebody else to help make it happen. So the key, the bottom line is here, guys, many of us, we just simply require more leverage. And in the United States today, we already live a highly leveraged life, right, John?
We do.
No doubt. Like that shirt, John,
Yeah.
I love it, by the way. Did you make it?
Did what?
I said, I love that shirt. Did you make it?
No.
Right. So you paid somebody who probably paid somebody who probably paid somebody to make it for you, right? So guys, it's the same basic way of thinking. Like, I'm wearing shoes right now. I certainly didn't make them. I paid somebody else to make them for me. So same principles apply to your business structure. It simply requires leverage. So let's talk about absentee owners, John, because this is a huge percentage of your business. I want you to kind of break it down part by part and piece by piece.
So how I started going after absentee owners is I was looking at my business, and I looked and I said, hey, where is the majority of my business coming from, right? Because before you can scale or deploy anything, you really need to be understanding the numbers in your business. Like, hey, what is working? What's not working? Okay, how can we understand why things are working? And then how can we further dive in deeper? And we just, in January, we realized that a lot of our sellers have been absentee owners. And so we were saying, oh my gosh, why don't we go deeper into going after absentee owners. And so that's basically how we came to understanding that that's been about 80% of our listings to date.
80%. So then, guys, I think the reason that people like John achieve extraordinary success is because they fail faster than anybody else. Meaning they test this, they test that, and then they find something that works. And once they find that, they ask the question, how do we scale that? How do we apply additional leverage to that, additional resources? How can we automate certain sequences in this communication chain and really scale this thing out? When I think about that, I think about one of our past icons, Mark Spain, who last year he and his team, by the way, closed about 3,100 transactions. And yet, when he started in real estate, like all of us, he was an independent agent, zero production, and then started testing with postcard campaigns. Just found the right messaging, found what worked, and then applied additional resources. He drove the same car for 5 years as he was building his organization, and it wasn't a nice car, right? Yet he found the right messaging, and now the guy's sending about I think it's somewhere around 300,000 pieces of mail every single month. He's expanded into 4 different states, and he's still going, guys. He's still going. So we find what works, we lean into that process. So let's talk about your approach, John. So first off, where do you get the data of these absentee owners?
I mean, so we go to Redx. You've got like for rent by owners, and you have people that are trying to sell it themselves, or I'm sorry, rent it out themselves. And we also go back to people just from our MLS that they rented their property in the past. And so we use white pages. We try to scrub and get that data and target those people. And so it's just really basically utilizing all the same tools that we have been, like the Redx, the Vulcan 7, and leveraging that, but just using that towards the absentee data. I mean, that's really, there's no real secret sauce there.
Gotcha. So if you're lucky enough to be in a geographic territory where MLS tracks that rental data for you. Now, where I sold real estate in Denver, Colorado, they didn't do that. So many of you are in an area like I was where you couldn't get access to it that way. Yet, John, you've got a sequence in mind because you've got that historical data. You know that they leased the property in July of 2018, and you can almost assume that they've got a 1-year lease on that property with an automatic, maybe built-in extension. So you've got a powerful idea of, a clarity perhaps around where this potential absentee owner is in the process. And therefore, about 90 days prior to the expiry of the lease, you can then begin communicating with them aggressively to do a 1031 exchange, to roll into a different property, or potentially just cash out and move on, right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we do. But we know between 2 to 3 months before that lease is up, so 12 months after that they rented it out, we just reach out to them, and we call them quite a few times, probably 5, 6 times. If they don't answer, we kind of move on to the next. But we just reach out and 2 to 3 months before. And if they're interested, great, we book an appointment. If not, then we put them in our database, and we'll call them at a later point.
No doubt. Now, you're also leveraging technology to communicate with this huge list of absentee owners. In fact, you're doing about 5,000 voicemail drops per month. So you're leveraging slybroadcast.com for that, right?
Yep, we sure are.
Okay, and what's the process? Let's talk about Sly Broadcast, because many of our listeners maybe haven't leveraged that tool in the past, haven't even heard of it. So kind of explain it to us like we're in the 3rd grade.
So basically, once I have these lists, what I'll do is I'll make a recording specific to them, specific to their situation that I know that they're feeling, or I know, what their situation is moving in, like going into it. So we have these targeted lists. And we basically upload it to Sly Broadcast. I record a message, and then we drop those voicemails, and we just kind of await the responses to come in. I mean, it's really a simple system.
It's a very simple system. I love it. We have a question came in from Hassan Niles. And while Icon Coaching is happy to assist you with this, Hassan, tell us, where did you find your scripts coach?
My scripts coach?
Yeah.
Well, I've had quite a few, and to be honest, it was a friend of a friend.
Okay, interesting. Very good.
I had somebody that had a great experience, but I will say though that Sean and his team of Icon Coach, I mean, they do it. They've got a great job. They've got all the scripts that you could possibly have. So honestly, I would reach out and see what Sean has. because I'm sure that they're the same ones that we're using right now.
Well, fantastic, John, and thanks for that plug. I appreciate it. In fact, if you are interested in that, gang, here's what I'll ask you to do. Just simply text the word discovery to 888-111. Text the word discovery to 888-111. You'll be brought to a scheduling link of one of our consultants. You'll be able to self-identify a time that's going to fit into your schedule, and we'll discover together where the gaps are in your existing model. You'll discover the ICON methodology because our consultants will share that with you, and it'll give you an opportunity to make an educated and informed decision whether or not ICON is a good fit for your current goal set, your business model, and everything else. So again, text discovery 888-111. And John, I think you did something similar almost a year ago.
I did. I did. You had a webinar just like this, and I kind of sought you out, and I said, Sean, let's do this thing.
And we've been working together for about 348 days, right? Yeah. And coming up on our year anniversary, right. And the explosive growth that I've witnessed, not only in the activities, the clarity around the business model, yet the production, the profit is now really coming on strong. So congratulations, John. So glad you're with us today. Right on. So absentee owners, you're doing the voicemail drops. You've got a direct mail campaign, as I understand it as well. Tell us about that.
So we're testing this. I've never been a big direct mail guy, but the biggest thing that I've always learned that I always want to be testing one thing. So I'm always testing one thing. I'm always seeing what works, what isn't working. And so we're testing direct mail right now. So with these targeted lists, we're just sending one piece of mail every 3 weeks. We're going to be doing that for about 13 weeks. So I don't have quite yet enough data to share with everybody because we just started a couple weeks ago. But I'm sure we'll be doing something like this in the future that I will be able to kind of share what's happening.
Love it. We've got a couple of questions coming in, and I appreciate it. Todd Watkins, he asks, and by the way, Todd is a very loyal ICON coaching client. Welcome to the call, Todd. He said, where did John find his virtual transaction coordinator? How did you find Tracy?
Lisa was...
Or Lisa, sorry.
Yeah, she was a transaction coordinator for somebody else that I was very, very good friends with at the time. Like we were doing a lot of coaching, scripting, role plays together, and she was his transaction coordinator. And so we just honestly linked up that way. Honestly, I didn't interview her. It was my second day. I didn't even know what to ask. So I just said, hey, will you help me with this file? And she knew a whole lot more about it, the deadlines and the contracts than I did. So just for a frame of reference.
Fantastic. So just reach out to colleagues to maybe even go to the ICON website, or excuse me, the Facebook page for ICON coaching and just post it there, guys. I mean, seriously, we've got a whole bunch of people going there that can help you with that as part of our community. Now, a couple of other questions from James Danner. He said, when are you calling for sale by owners and expireds? What time of day do you find to be the most helpful? When you were personally doing it, and then also with your ISAs, when are they finding the most contacts?
You got to do it before 8:30. You have to be one of the first people to call. If not, then these guys shut their phones off. And honestly, I don't blame them, right? So you want to be the first person. So when I was doing it, I would like to call starting at 8 o'clock. I know there are several people in my market that start at 7:30. I personally, I think that's a little bit too early because I wouldn't want to receive a phone call at 7:30. But you definitely have to be one of the first ones. So I would say definitely before 8:30 in the morning.
And you're talking about expireds, right?
Correct. Expireds for sale by owners, even I'd say before 10 o'clock.
Okay, fantastic. And by the way, based on the research done for the writing of The One Thing, your willpower battery is the highest first thing in the morning anyway. And every action you take throughout the day, I want you to imagine that your willpower is being depleted. So it's kind of like the battery life on your cell phone, right? The more you use your cell phone, the faster the battery life is drained. The more complicated the task the phone is doing, the faster the battery is drained. So you're no different. I'm no different, right? So doing the most complex or that task that you kind of have to get your energy up to make it happen. You have to motivate yourself and psych yourself up a little bit to do that first thing in the morning. You're going to be the most effective. And that just happens to coincide with whether or not that expired is going to take your call in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. So guys,
what I'll do is I'll actually call them 2 different times and 2 different numbers. So you can't have multiple numbers just in case if you think that they're dodging your call. That's a technique that I learned a while back.
Okay, so for those of you who don't maybe have that technology set up, well, you got a landline probably at your office, and you got your cell phone. So just dial once from each, no doubt about it. I love it. All right, Junkie, thank you, Junkie. I appreciate the plug. You're amazing as well. In fact, Junkie, someday, very, very soon, I'm going to have you and your husband, Haren, on the Icon of the Month webinar. So get ready. I'm very excited about that. She's out in the Bay Area, out in California, and absolutely crushing it. We've been working together for a couple of years now. And Junkie, you always amaze me. Thank you. All right. So John, let's go on to the next point of the agenda that we put forward here, which was you're good. How do you create a culture of productivity?
So I believe that if you have that community and you have everybody that's you've done the recruiting well on the front end, that everybody knows the expectations coming in, and you have this environment that breeds activity, because we know that the activities are going to lead to the results. And so we personally have a Slack channel. So as soon as somebody does any type of result, whether that's booking an appointment, you met an appointment, you signed an agreement, you put something under contract, you closed, that goes in the Slack channel. And so there are anywhere between, I'd say, 5 to 6 notifications from the entire team of things happening per day. So just that momentum is really contagious, and it just keeps everybody going. Like I see one of my buyer's agents, Melissa, who is absolutely crushing it right now. Absolutely. She's got 15 active buyers, by the way, that she's working with. She's absolutely crushing it. I need to go hire her showing partner yesterday. But she booked 4 appointments in one day, 4 appointments. And so she put that on the group chat, on the Slack, and everybody's like, oh my God, Melissa, you're killing it. I suck today. Like, I need to step up my game. I need to get some results. I got to get into activity. And so that just motivates everybody to just get in the role. And so that's probably the biggest thing. And we have weekly team meetings. We do book clubs. So we read the one thing we're reading Start With Why Now, and everybody's got their own chapter and they're summarizing it. And so that's really what we do to kind of keep everybody on the same page, keep everybody in the activities. And so it's pretty fun. It's a fun culture to be around.
Awesome. No doubt about it. So I think good culture building, gang, it starts with a powerful mission and vision. Mission to me is an explanation from your perspective as the leader. Where are you going? The vision statements, on the other hand, should be short, easy to remember or even memorize, yet it describes here's what it's going to look like once you get there. And then to be crystal clear on the values of the organization is really the foundation of a culture of productivity, no doubt about that. So Susie Ariola out on the West Coast, out in Orange County, she asks, and hey, Susie, how are you? She asks, who are you using for video emails?
We do everything in-house.
Oh, fantastic. All right. So
yeah.
Susie, I'm assuming she's recommending my friend Frank Klesitz over at Viral Marketing. They do a great job over there with video emails. We've got a couple of other questions that came in through the chat function as well. Okay. And Junkie, I'm not 100% sure. She said, can you repeat that again? How many appointments a day? John, does that ring anything in your mind? Any thoughts there?
How many appointments a day? Oh, I mean, I'll tell you that we booked a total of 50 appointments in January, and we've booked year to date close to 90 appointments set. And okay. So there's me, 2 buyers agents, and 2 inside sales. So between 5 people, it's 90 appointments.
So if they're working 20 days a month, that's averaging over 2 appointments per day.
Yeah,
that's pretty darn powerful, right, Junkie? All right. And Hassan, yes, this webinar is being recorded. We will be sending out the recording link to every single person who registered for it. So look for that in your email inbox first thing tomorrow morning. All right. There's another one that I'm going to have to take a moment to read here. So, John, what else would you like to tell them about culture building? I had a note here.
You got to have the right people.
Yeah, network and questions to ask. Does that ring anything, or does that jar anything in your mind?
Oh, no. So in terms of culture, you want to make sure that you're not only getting the right information, but if you're leading an organization, you got to make sure that you are giving your team this as good of information as you can. So you want to be surrounding yourself with the greats of the world, not the goods, the greats of the world. So I learned that the hard way. I was hiring okay people, and I was getting okay results. And as soon as I upped my, not only the price tag or the paycheck that I was really willing to spend for better either mentorship, coaching, but to get me into better circles, you want to raise up your level of people that you surround yourself with, so then you can therefore bring that back to your organization so they can feel the same information that you are getting. So being that conduit is so important.
Very, very good. Great response, John. Thank you for that. So let's talk about system creation. I believe first off, to identify what systems are lacking from your current business model, you must first identify any key frustration or anything that you're quote unquote putting up with right now. So you recognize that anytime you have a frustration in your business, well, it's not you, it's not your people, it's not the clients, prospects, or vendors. Guys, it's merely the lack of a system. Now, a system is nothing more than a standardized process that produces a consistent and predictable result. So John, my question here is, how do you personally identify the lack of systems, and then take us kind of through a step-by-step approach that you've engaged in to make certain that you can not just fix it, right? Because so many realtors are into fix, and they feel more like a firefighter than they do a realtor, right? Rather, how do you fix it once and then prevent it from ever happening again? Dive into that question, John. I want to hear your response.
Absolutely. So I look at things weekly. I look at the system. I really know my numbers. If you were to ask me on my lead, any source of business that we have, if you were to ask me any number right now, I could rattle it off my tongue right now, because I look at these things each and every week. And so I didn't start there. I started with, first, I was understanding what's working, what's not working. How can I increase the odds of what's working, or how can I channel my focus to what's working? So for example, internet leads coming in, right? I realized that we weren't capturing everybody. And I was like, okay, well, how can we were only getting a small percentage of people on the phones. And so what we did is we added in texting, and then we saw the response rates from texting come up dramatically, and we were leading to more phone appointments. And then we were getting a lot of bad numbers. So then we added a bad, basically a label that says, if you have a bad number, we would email you to try to get the correct information so we can get on the phone and book an appointment, right? And so as we went through, we say, hey, what is working? What's not working? And then how can we bridge the gap to make whatever's not working, or whatever's working, how can we scale that? So that's basically the thought process that goes through my head every single week.
Good. Well, one of the things I love about our coaching conversations that we have week after week, John, is that when you hear an idea, something that resonates with you, you immediately go into action on it. Number one, I think that's critical, guys, because you're going to hear all kinds of great things out there. I mean, there's 1,000+ different ways you can be successful in real estate. It's just, do you have the ability to get into action? So number one, you get into action. Number two, you ask yourself the who question. See, guys, it's not about you, it's about who. Who can do that for you? And you'd be shocked at what your vendor partners will do to earn your current and future business. I mean, you can delegate so many things to your vendor partners, and it doesn't cost you a darn thing. Great example was when I went through the analysis of where I was investing my time as a buyer agent. I was investing 2 to 3 hours every day, guys, in lead follow-up with prospects that were C-type prospects at best, meaning they weren't going anywhere. Yet I would invest that time because I couldn't stand that gut-wrenching feeling that I know you can all identify with when you follow up with a prospect a week too late, just to hear them say, well, oh, I wish you would have called me last week because we just went under contract yesterday. Ouch, right? So I would invest that time day after day, week after week, month after month, and then I ask myself the who question. My mind went immediately to my lender partners. See, they benefit when you close a transaction. And once they close that transaction, of course, they're getting their commission as well. So I called the lender and I said, hey, listen, I want to give you the opportunity to earn the business of every one of our buyer prospects. Yet you've got to earn that right. And just 3 things on the list, really quite simple. Number one, you've got to be willing to follow up with all of my C buyers till they buy or die. Okay. Number two, you've got to be willing to use my scripts. And the first script was really simple, right? Hey, it's John over at XYZ Mortgage Company, and Sean Kokoska asked me to give you a call. Before I begin, I just want to commend you on your selection of a realtor. You know, Sean is by far the best realtor I've ever come across. I've been doing this for 23 years. How'd you get in touch with Sean? See, when they act as that third-party endorsement, guys, they can sell you better than you'll ever sell yourself. And then third, they had to meet with me every other week to review the pipeline, meaning who's the prospect, what was the last point of communication, what's the planned next point of communication, and how would they rate their motivation on a scale of 1 to 10. So just 3 simple things. And when they said yes to those things, then I gave them 100% to the business, or at least the opportunity. I gave them the at-bat, and it was up to them to go out and knock it out of the park. So I acted as their third-party endorsement. They acted as mine. And as a result, we both did a heck of a lot more business together. So to summarize that, just think, who can I leverage through? Who else benefits when I close a transaction? And how can you do more business by helping others get what they want when they want it? Powerful questions, no doubt, John. All right, buddy. So let's talk about this year specifically. We're nearing the end of Q1 2019. And what have you done over the last 2.5 months that you feel will be a game changer in your production in 2019?
Well, first, getting surrounded with the right people. I would say an external motivation is having a second child. That definitely puts a fire underneath your butt, right? But
so you want to do more production, just have more babies, right? Take on more responsibility.
Yeah. So basically, it's what I know is going to get us to the next level is being surrounded by the right people, having the right people, having phone conversations, having the right buyers agents, servicing our buyers and giving them amazing experiences, and helping our buyers buy properties, and having our buyers agents make great financial income. And so really the big thing for me is focus on who in my organization is going to help us get to the next level, and not necessarily what we're doing. That's the big theme for 2019.
I love it. It's the what, how, and who paradox, as I call it. Meaning the combination of what you do, gang, how you do it, and who you do it with, well, that got you to your current level of success. Now, the biggest challenge is that combination of what, how, and who that got you here. It's not automatically going to transform into a better combination of what, how, and who that's going to get you to that next level of success. So for things to change, obviously something must change. Now, it's been said that you're the sum of the 5 people that you are closest to, or that you associate yourself with, or that you give your time to, right, John? Have you witnessed that to be true in your own life?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy because when I'm looking back on where I was 3 years ago and to the people that I had surrounding myself with, and even if I was doing things, I thought I could do everything, but really I'm really good at sales. Right? That's my one thing. So why would I even toy with administrative or filling things out or building a system, right? That's not what I'm really, really good at. I'm really, really good at having an idea and selling. I mean, that's really it. So everything else I need to have on somebody else's plate who is the absolute master at that, because I know that if we work together, we can go so much further than if I could on my own, or if they could on their own.
No doubt. Well, you know, so many high producers in this industry, gang, they don't have a lead generation problem. They know how to develop leads, right? They don't necessarily have a lead conversion problem. What they have is a talent problem. So getting the right people in place is absolutely critical. Now, John, I want to share the model toward mastery on my screen here. And in a moment, we're going to have a brief discussion around this. So I just want to explain this model toward mastery to everybody in the webinar. And then, John, I'm going to ask you where you invest your time in these different categories. Now, first off, gang, when we get into business, it's all about foundation. And I think it's about daily focus on foundation. There's 4 categories here. It's knowledge, skills, mindset, and habits. See, when you know what to say, you know how to say it, you've got the right mindset and habits to say it to enough people, well, then you're going to be successful. So what I'm talking about here is the pipeline phase. This is your marketing approach. This is your Facebook ad strategy. This is your proactive outbound lead generation to prospects like for sale by owners, expired listings, circle prospecting, and your own SOI, sphere of influence, or better yet, source of income, right? And those with tenacity, you're going to break through to that area of momentum. Our 4 categories to momentum, once again, is models, systems, technology, and people to eventually reach this level of mastery. So foundation to pipeline, pipeline momentum, momentum to leverage, and leverage to mastery. Now, the biggest challenge here, as I mentioned earlier, those that get to momentum and they get sucked into the transactional work, well, they fall backward in the model, back down to pipeline, then up to momentum and backward and up and so on and so forth. So once you get to momentum, the key is leverage to apply the right models, systems, technology, and people to eventually hit the level of mastery. Now, John, you as the leader of your organization, as you're scaling and adding additional ISAs, showing partners, buyers agents, and eventually, right, a listing specialist so that you don't have to go on those appointments anymore, where do you invest your time?
So I'm basically in the leverage to keep people in the momentum and the pipeline stages. That's really the critical. Obviously, they have to have a good foundation, but once they have that foundation, just keeping them laser focused on the consistency, like what it is that they need to be doing on a daily basis for them to get into momentum. Because that's ultimately exactly where you said that they need to stay.
See, what John is articulating here, guys, and I want you to get this because this is one of the best ahas that I believe the Icon coaching clients get. I want to give it to you right now. When we compensate ourselves or others based on our personal production or their personal production, well, then of course we and they are forced to focus on personal production. Now, when you apply leverage to the model and you start leveraging through people and you help them get what they want, ultimately you're compensating yourself based on the production of others. And just like John, then you can focus your energy on scaling that operation such that you've got 15, 20, 30, or like Mark Spain, over 100 people that are making you money. And of course, you've got the right compensation models in place. You've got the right motivations in tow, and they're making the money they want to make. In turn, you're making the money you want to make. So what I heard there is that you invest your time in leverage, John. You focus on providing the right models, systems, technology, and people to your team. Yes?
Absolutely. I think the biggest misnomer is that if an organization doesn't have the right tools and the right foundation, that I feel like their agents just aren't going to make the income that they want. And the biggest thing that has been a big aha for me is that if you build it the right way, if you have the right systems, the right automation, and if you plug the right people into your organization, I mean, my buyer's agent, she's going to be making 12 to 16 grand a month, just a month, by her plugging in, and she's been with me for about 4 months. So how cool is that to have somebody plug into your organization and then all of a sudden start working with 12, 15 buyers to where she's making, 12 to 16 grand a month? Like, what other opportunity could you have for somebody to come in and just do that type of numbers? I mean, it blows my mind. Once you have a good system, the results that you can give other people, I mean, it's life-changing for them.
Well, undoubtedly, and obviously with her production, then that's giving you additional capital to reinvest and really scale the operation. So guys, it starts with one key hire, right? Now, you'd mentioned foundation, John. So how are you focused on improving the knowledge, skills, mindset, and habits of your team?
So that goes back into our 30-60-90, our onboarding process and our daily and weekly calls. So we role play every single day. Everybody has to do it. And it's not just once you book an appointment with somebody, that's the first step, but it's also the lead conversion. So any objections that we're getting, if we're meeting clients face-to-face, what objections we're going to have and how we can help them overcome and sign those clients. So that's daily and weekly. And we talk about mindset each and every week at our team meetings, and it's so important. So that stuff it's very, very consistent.
Very good. So guys, to summarize, John is investing his time in foundation and leverage to create this top-down leverage approach and a bottom-up kind of grassroots. Let's train these people up. Let's get them focused on the right knowledge, skills, mindset, and habits so that they can be firmly rooted in the pipeline phase, and then get them to and keep them in momentum so that they don't fall victim of momentum, back to pipeline, back to momentum, down to pipeline. No, he's providing the leverage to the people so they can stay in that position of momentum. So John, great recap of that, buddy. I appreciate it. So a couple of other questions come in. What channel do you use for group conversation? So I think Todd's referencing the group interview process. So you get these candidates in, they watch this webinar. Now, I did have a couple of other questions that I think I want to bring to light, some answers, I should say. So I'll get those answers out of you, okay? So you advertise through WiseHire, Indeed. You're asking your allied resource partners, vendors, past clients, who do you know that would be a great fit for my team? And you get all these candidates, around 100, 150 a month. Then the first filter is they get to watch this pre-recorded webinar that you put together. Now that webinar outlines the business structure, it outlines the job description, the role, kind of the evolution of first you're going to start as an ISA. Then you can, if you choose to, leave that role and come over to be a showing partner. After X result is achieved, you can then be a showing partner. The buyer agent is then going to train this showing partner. So you're leveraging off the training aspect of this individual. And they're going to be a showing partner until a result is achieved, like 3 buyers or 5 buyers under contract. Then they're going to be promoted to buyer agent, which is where the real money starts to roll in for these folks. And so you're outlining the compensation models. You're outlining kind of the standards and expectations of the role. X number of conversations per day, X number of hours invested in telephone work, lead generation, lead follow-up, all of that stuff is being put forth in this webinar, which is fully automated, right? So
Correct.
You're not doing a weekly webinar. You record it at once, and it's a set it, forget it kind of a thing, right? So
absolutely. And my admin, Ellen, basically answers, because people can type in their questions. So she basically just responds whenever she gets questions, because they just go to her inbox. So she just replies back with the answers to whatever questions that they have. And everybody thinks that it's actually live. So that's the cool part about it. No one, unless they're really, really savvy, they think it's recorded, but most people think it's live.
Very good. So the first filter is to just explain the model, explain the expectations and what the DITLO of an ISA on your team might look like, right? So that's first filter. The second filter is then Ellen contacts them directly, does she not?
Yep, and we have a pretty in-depth phone interview with them, figure out their background, like why they want to do this, and if there's any questions that we have for their resume, we ask that at that point.
Okay,
yeah.
So then you collect references and you do reference checks is the next step, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then once you've done reference checks and this candidate is approved to move forward to the next step, it is the group interview, correct?
Correct. We have group interviews once a week, and we had 5 scheduled yesterday, only 2 showed up, and then those 2 people joined.
Okay, so that's the next filter is, are they going to show up to this group interview? Then you take them through your group interview agenda. And once you've done that, then you bring them in one-on-one to ask the simple question, are you in or are you out? Now, if they're in, then you push them over to Ellen, and Ellen takes them through the onboarding process and sets the appropriate expectations, right?
Correct.
So not much of John's time, guys, is being invested in this, and that's the point I want to make about it. So Todd, I trust that answered that question. If it's something different, oh wait, the channel to celebrate successes, excuse me, Todd. Well, I trust you got a lot out of that response though, by the way. To celebrate the successes, the daily communications, how does everyone stay in touch daily? Is there a specific app that you like to use? This group chat. Slack. Very good. Very good. So what was the learning curve behind Slack? Was it relatively simple? Did everybody jump in on that full on? Was it easy?
Yeah, less than a day. It's just like you're messaging on your phone, but it's just a separate application for it, and it's on your iPhone. You can have it on your desktop. You can take it to go if you need to.
Gotcha. So Kim Brown asked a great question. When you have the lender endorse you, Is it an issue to move that buyer to a buyer agent? Well, I believe that the lender should endorse your buyer agent. So let's subject the needs of our own ego and let them have the spotlight, and that makes everything else easier and a lot of things unnecessary. So Kim, I don't know that, especially in your growth, I've coached with Kim for, I believe it's been about 4 or 5 months now, just a rock star out of San Antonio, Texas. So Kim, I think your buyer agent should be first point of contact for that buyer prospect. The buyer agent should get permission for the lender to contact your prospect. And when that contact occurs, then that's when the lender acts as the third party endorsement for your buyer agent and for your team at the same time. So I trust that does help you bridge the gap. Fantastic. All right, John Key. Yes, I see that you guys are in leverage, and it's my pleasure to help you stay there. Fantastic. Congratulations. All right, so John, we're out of time, man. Wow. An hour sure goes by fast when you're having fun, doesn't it?
It does, man. It does.
Any parting thoughts or words of advice for the Icon community here?
Honestly, what I would do, if I were each and every one of you, I would go back and even look at your closings for the past 12 months. So your entire 2018, and look at where did each and every part of my business come from, and dissect that. And then say, okay, so if 62% of my business came from my past client in my sphere, then what efforts am I going to do this year in my past client, my sphere, to grow that, to scale it? So just look at your past transactional record, see where you're having success, and see how you can dive deeper into that and scale it. That's what I would think.
That's fantastic, John. And I remember when we went through that exercise in January, and the light bulbs went off, and now you're scaling that part of the business out, and the production, the profit is now following. So solid advice. So here's my input, guys. Get into action. Now, earlier I gave you an opportunity to engage in a complimentary discovery call. So I'll just encourage you to just text the word discovery to 888-111 if you're not currently an Icon one-on-one coaching client, and we'll help you bring conscious awareness to any gaps that exist in your current model. We'll share with you the Icon methodology that will undoubtedly help you bridge whatever gaps we find in that first call, and then you can make an informed decision. Is coaching right for you? By the way, we offer many group coaching programs as well that are very inexpensive, that you learn a ton, and when applied, it's going to quadruple your income. So let's make that happen. John, thank you, buddy, so much for being on the Icon of the Month webinar. I'm very excited about this. So if you guys have any referrals, again, for the Washington, D.C. area, Northern Virginia, just reach out to John on Facebook. Again, it's John Murdock. Just send him a private message, and he'll definitely respond to you that way. So by the way, another question came in. John, do you offer coaching? And I'd like to extend the opportunity for you to coach Icon clients as well. Are you open to it?
I'm open.
All right.
Yeah, honestly, if you guys have any questions, if you want to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
All right, buddy.
I really am.
All right. And it looks like you got another meeting. Somebody was trying to get your attention, so we'll let you run.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Really appreciate you. You truly are
Thank you, guys.
an icon. So guys, until next time, I want you to be on purpose, be productive, and as always, be powerful. Talk soon.
Cool. Thanks, Sean.